This week, I've got something that I'm tying in to one of my favorite games of all time. You may have heard of it, and it's something that I do think applies to the vast majority of people, and it's just something that I've kind of learned over the past few years. So without further ado, let's talk a bit about finding your focus. To start things off, we're going to take a look at focus in Warframe terms. Focus is how we define who we want our Tenno to be, right? You've got the Madurai, the School of Fighters. You've got Vazarin, the School of the Protectors. You've got Naramon, the School of the Tacticians. Unairu, School of the Indomitable. And Zeneric #1, School of the Arcane. Now, balance issues aside, the idea behind focus is that each of the schools is unique and powerful in their own way. The intent is for them to be different, but each useful for different circumstances or different play styles. Now, when Focus was first released, it took about 280 days of farming to max out all the trees. When Focus 2.0 came out last year, it added on approximately 140 days onto the 280 that it already took to max out all the schools. And that was assuming that you hit your focus cap every single day, 7 days a week, for over a year. And the best way to do that was doing one mission with one build for a few hours a day in order to hit that cap. It was the biggest grind that Warframe had ever seen. Nay, the world had ever seen. People argued that you were never meant to max out all the trees, and that was a fair point. However, it went against everything else that Warframe had been up until that point. Some people love Warframe for the collectathon. They just love doing everything. But when the collectathon takes over a year of nonstop grinding for one area of the game, that's not even mentioning getting everything else in the game. This is just for one thing. Farm for over a year to finish it and be done. That's where most collectors are going to draw the line. And so the community, outraged, and well, Digital Streams has taken steps to kind of scale that back a little bit. They could probably still do some work on it, but for now, it's in a state where the community isn't horrendously disgusted with it, so it is what it is for now. They'll probably do a Focus 3.0 eventually, I'm sure, but while the idea of a choice-based grind looks really good on paper and interesting, that people won't be able to do it all and they'll have to make a choice, doesn't really make for the best gameplay experience, especially in a game like Warframe where players are used to kind of being able to do everything. Just didn't work very well how they had envisioned it. Most players, though, even now after it's been scaled back a little, they'll probably still only touch one or two trees, one or two schools. Myself included, I'm probably only going to do like Vazarin and a little bit of Zeneric, because I just don't. I'm not gonna grind it that much. It's not worth it to me. I love the game, but that's just not worth it. They did tone it down, and it's better. It doesn't take a year now, but it's still a lot of work to max out all those trees. To some extent, the intent is still for people to make a choice and commit to one school, but if they're 100%ers, it's a little bit more reasonable for them to do everything now. And that's very similar to how careers work in our own lives. So here we are getting into where this is all going. There's a reason why people don't usually have more than one career at once, right? It just isn't feasible. A great doctor could never also be a great lawyer at the same time. Maybe over a lifetime starts out a doctor and then studies lawyer, and then he's a great lawyer later. But no one is going to be a great doctor and a great lawyer at the same time, right? That'd be insane. they'd end up being mediocre at both. And sometimes it's hard for us to come to terms with it, but it's rare that someone is going to be able to pursue all of their passions at once. I love writing, right? Some of you might not even know that. It's like, Sarah, if you write, most of you probably know that, but or at least I don't write anymore, really. But I love writing, so much so that sometimes whenever I'm extremely stressed, writing is the only thing that's able to calm me down. I was working on a book for a long time, was really close to starting a blog, but when I decided that, I was going to pursue ministry and the whole God Squad thing, I realized I couldn't really also be a writer. So I shut down my blog before it had even started. It never even went live. And I shelved the book until the time where I can pick it up again, give it the attention it deserves. It was a hard thing for me to do. I really wanted to finish the book, and I do think I will one day. But at the time, I knew I had to shelve it. So the book probably isn't going to go unfinished for the rest of time. But maybe it will. I don't know. I have no idea. I hope one day to be able to finish it, and maybe even write another book or two. But right now, my focus is elsewhere. You may have a lot of passions, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're trying to dabble in everything, you're never going to truly excel at any of them. You have to decide what you want to pursue and focus all of your creative energy into that. Most of the time, it really is up to you. You're probably good at more than one thing, but you can only truly excel at one of them at a time, unfortunately. And then whatever you choose, make sure your focus has a focus as well. Focusception, okay? Stay with me here. So if you make videos, if that's going to be your focus, you're going to make videos. Well, what kind of videos do you make? If you're going to make art, what kind of art do you make? If you're going to write, what kind of genre do you write? Right? There's not, like, nobody does everything. They're really good at one thing, and then in that one thing, they're really good at one particular type of that thing, right? You're focused. Your focus also needs a focus. I would love to branch out and try out different graphic styles, different video styles, and do completely different things than I'm doing now for the ministry. But I know that right now my focus is ministry, and that's going to limit the different styles that I can do. If I try to do other things while I'm doing my media ministry, then I'm going to spread myself thin, and neither of them are going to be very great. Now, are they? If you look at any successful person, they're successful because they're really good at one thing, right? Every successful YouTuber has a style of video that they're really good at. Every successful music artist has a genre they're really good at. And with music artists, lots of times, sometimes when they try to do something different, that's when their career is done, because they were really good at one thing, and then they tried to do something different, and they weren't great at that. Sometimes they can do it, but most of the time, I think they're not able to. But every successful director has a certain style of film that they're really good at. Michael Bay, explosions is his thing. He makes the best explosions-based movies anybody's ever seen. People like watching explosions. Well, you're gonna like a Michael Bay movie, because that's what he's really good at. He's not good at making movies in general. He's good at making explosion movies. No, I'm not ratting on Michael Bay. I love his explosion movies, but it's just the example. All these people are successful because they have a focus, and because their focus has a focus. They're focused. Focus. It's like a cone, right? Cone of focus. It should narrow into one thing, and you should be really good at one thing. It's hard to leave other passions behind us, but we're not going to make a substantial difference in anything if we're trying to do everything. And just because you have to leave behind your other passions now doesn't mean you'll have to abandon them forever. Doesn't mean you'll never get to revisit them. Later on, you may find that you can change gears and start pursuing something else entirely. that you love just as much as what you were doing before. But at least for a season, be sure to choose your focus and to stick with it. Everyone has potential, but without focus, it's hard to truly realize our potential in anything.